Hello, Angie.
Rebecca, hello, how are you?
I am, you know what? We are 3 weeks into school. So I'm
Yeah,
feeling like at this point, things are starting to feel like we're 3 weeks into school. Like
yeah.
it's not right on the heels of summer anymore. It's starting to feel more natural. So we're
Yeah.
getting in a
Building up
routine.
the
Mhm.
yeah, building up those back to school muscles. It takes some stamina and it takes a few weeks to get into that,
100%.
no pun, but a flow state
Yes.
into
Well, how
Rebecca.
do you like that segue?
I know, right?
Yeah,
Episode 14, y'all. Welcome to episode 14. Super excited to be here with you today.
we did it. We made it to the 14th episode, and I feel pretty good
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
good.
I would say we
And
got into the flow.
Yeah, let's get into the flow. As you know, each week Rebecca and I love to bring you some real talk, real time, relatable. Hopefully, you walk away with one new idea or one mindset shift, some practical tips that you can experience that you're learning from us as we're dancing through lives completely imperfectly, trying to figure stuff out as we go,
Mm.
in hopes that it resonates with you. So today, episode 14, we are excited to talk about all the glorious flow state.
Mhm.
So, Rebecca, when we just say flow state, I'm curious, like, what does that mean to you?
So for me, it's as if your brain goes into this total vacuum, and the thing in front of you is the most important thing, and you're moving through the motions of doing the thing with a sense of calm and peace. That's how I feel when I'm in the flow state.
And is there a place or two in your life right now where you're feeling that calm and peace?
Yeah. So for me, there are a couple of things that I am doing that get me in that flow state. So for me, yoga always, I know, and that's
Mm,
just a traditionally reputable place for flow state. Um, because that's kind of the point, is to flow through the movements and get back into embodiment and, just stay in the moment and let your mind just put things on pause for a little bit while you
yeah.
focus on your breath and you focus on your body, which going through the motions every day, you just lose that. You stop thinking
Mhm.
about whether or not you're even breathing. And I don't know about you, but I find myself a lot holding my breath, clenching my jaw, clenching my teeth, in this like scrunched up shoulder situation in my body. And so yoga for me is a place that I get to go to and just leave everything else behind for 45 minutes and then
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
always waiting for me when I get out, but I usually feel like I just took a long warm bath, or like a nap while moving. So
And what's the impact it has on you?
it resets me. It always resets me.
Mm,
So if I feel like there's too much going on and I've lost sight of myself, then I can always return to yoga as a place where it just kind of snaps me back into my body.
awesome. And yourself,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's
Mhm.
grounding. It's a grounding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love
So,
flow state.
yeah. So what about you?
Yeah. As you were talking, what's for me, flow state is this space of pure presence. And you mentioned it a little bit. It's the not thinking about the future, not worrying or dwelling on the past. You're just in present mode. And I love being in a flow state. It's energetic for me. Creativity comes
Yeah.
up. New ideas are just emerging. And I'm like, oh, where did that, like new downloads are just by being calm and not thinking. It's almost
Mhm.
like a letting go of control.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's a submitting to the presence. It's like a submission and letting go and being.
Mhm.
So a couple places right now where I'm experiencing flow is I started going back to the gym, picking back up some weights. It's been a long time coming. And I'm in my fifth week of getting into. So and the fact that I'm getting up at 4:45 a couple times a week to go do it, just in of itself is just, I don't think about it. The alarm goes off and I'm like, hey, just get up. I have my clothes already set up. So I have to like flow over there and I don't think about it. Otherwise I'll think it's 4:45 in the morning. I want to go back to bed. Why am I doing this? This is insane. It's completely dark outside. I can still hear the crickets and see the stars and the moon, right? Like, no, I don't. Like, I just let go, I submit, and I just flow up and get ready. But then when I'm at the gym, it's also a letting go, because we have a guide that's facilitating like the whole thing for us. And so I'm finding myself when I'm there, even just letting go, not thinking about it, and just really feeling into all the moves that we're doing. I really hope that flow state stays for me, because then I leave and I just feel so, obviously, there's never been anyone that has ever said, I don't think, man, I wish I didn't. I'm really bummed I worked out today, right? like
Hardly
you
ever.
talk about yoga, hardly ever.
Right.
Another place for flow, I get into every morning when I know I've talked about this on previous podcasts, but when I do kind of my morning grounding ritual of the centering and doing my I am statements and my gratitude and my setting my intentions for the day and how am I going to care for myself. And I always find I could take a few deep breaths to get into, like you mentioned, let the jaw relax, let the shoulders relax, like just come in the present moment. And then it's amazing what comes up, especially when I'm writing my 10 I am statements. So I find myself for those 5 to 10 minutes every morning in a place of flow. And ideas do emerge.
I feel like for me too, like writing is a place where if I'm really interested in what I'm writing about or journaling,
Yes.
I can enter that flow state and I can lose track of time a little bit. So when I do that in the morning, I have to be mindful of the fact that I've got to get my kids up for school.
I crave getting into a flow state, whether it's with the work or like the exercise that we're talking about. I love moments. So I'm stepping into a new role again right now this week. So brand new role. I'm transitioning from old role to new role, and really have been in this like, okay, I'm going to let go of all of that, adopt a beginner's mindset, stepping into this new space, and been dreaming, like allowing myself to like, what's our vision? Who do we want to be? Like yesterday with my new team, we had an offsite and we really spent time in a very relaxed state, but yet very focused on, and some exercises like dreaming and imagining what's possible and visioning. And I was just, I love every moment of that when I get to have those moments of creativity, even with a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'm curious about is what keeps you. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone's going to argue like those moments where you just feel completely engaged, like you mentioned, where hours can go by and you're working. Sometimes when I'm working on a home project, even, right, or sometimes even cleaning the house, I can get into a state of flow where hours can go by and I'm like, whoa, what the heck happened? It's like, that's been like 3 hours, but I was like totally engrossed in it, right? So I'm constantly chasing. I love those moments. But I'm curious, what gets in your way of flow state?
Yeah. So I recently saw a really great like graph that shows flow state. So it represents flow state on this chart. And on one axis is task difficulty, and the other is capability. So think of it as challenge and capability. And if the challenge is too low or the capability is too low, you can either get into anxiety if it's, like if it's too low, or boredom. So the flow zone is kind of the balance of challenge and capability. And so that's why in some cases too, if you're not growing, if you're not pushing yourself to become more challenged by something, you will eventually get bored and kind of lose your ability to get into that flow state.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love that. So it needs to be a little bit uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
Like you're trying to do something new or dream up or imagine,
Right.
to get into that state. But then also, what's your ability to be able to do it?
Right. Exactly.
For me, it's distractions.
Mm.
Like it's minimizing distractions all day long. We got these devices, right? Constantly trying to distract us and break us from flow state. This, I got my team's messages, I got emails flowing through all day long. And I think part of, if the idea here is how do you get into and find moments of flow state a little bit each and every day, or for sure you want to get into those moments at least on a weekly, right? But knowing what's going to get in your way.
Yeah.
Life, for some reason, is one the big, I think, like, what do they call them? The big brother out there, right? Is trying to keep us distracted as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And man, there are more things to keep us from actually unleashing our potential, being our best selves,
Yeah.
doing the things, the consistency and the discipline of the things that we know. Getting into flow is where magic happens to you.
Yeah.
Like you said, that's where growth, that's where new ideas emerge. That's where growth happens. And if we're constantly distracted, it's keeping us out of flow.
Absolutely. Well, and in some cases nowadays, we have to be very intentional about carving out time for it. That isn't too long or too short, because context switching and, to your point, the disruptions of all of the things, whether it's electronic or people or whatever, all of that can really hinder your ability to get into the flow state. But another thing too is if you carve out too much time and you get in the flow state, but then you're trying to do something for too long, then at some point it starts to feel terrible. So it really is, it's about like, just being mindful of what it is that you need to do every day if possible to give yourself some space and time to get in that flow state.
Yeah, I love that. And even starting small, 10 minutes, right? What's something that you can give yourself that I purposely have a task. It's a big task. It is a challenging task, right? And I have probably medium capability to do it. So I'm not great at it. Maybe I'm actually beginner. If I'm being honest with myself, like I'm kind of making some stuff up here.
Sure.
That's due by the end of the day today. And so I've purposely like carved out time and no meetings, blocked my calendar because I need to get in a state of flow in order to create this. And it's due by the end of the day. So that's a great example to your point of how do you carve out the time, minimize. I will not be looking at my emails or my teams or my texts for that amount of time. I'm thinking I can crank it out in 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's about making progress. So like, can you make progress on something instead of getting it perfect, right? To your point, if you just keep going at it, then it could be actually have the opposite. Like you get out of flow and then you're anxious and stressed.
Yeah. I think, your place to your environment is really important in order to get in the flow state. So for, in my life right now, I work from home every day. And I struggle sometimes to get into flow state here just because I know that on the other side of this wall is my washer and dryer, or, my dog might bark at something. And the next thing you know, I'm like out of it. And I'm like, all right, who's here? Why is she barking? Is there somebody at the door? That kind of thing. And it just snaps me right out of it. So environment is really key in order to get in the flow state.
Yeah. Yeah. I go out on my deck actually a lot in the morning since it's been so beautiful. In the mornings to do my 10-minute journaling. So I'll wake up on the mornings that I'll do it after the gym. The mornings I go to the gym early, I'm not going to do my meditation at 4:30 in the morning. Right. So I come home, but then I have 10 minutes. I take after the gym, I take 10 minutes and I go on the deck where I can listen to nature. It's the mornings, kind of the sun rising, and I create that environment and it's lovely. And it's just for, again, 5 to 10 minutes. But then it's like, all right, now I got to go get the kids ready to school and get ready for my work day and get off. But it's that 5 to 10 minutes. That's just really, really grounding and beautiful. What do we want our listeners to walk away? If you were to share 1 or 2 tips that you think are the most practical and realistic, what guidance and wisdom you want to share?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just really returning to that idea of challenge and capability and just listening to yourself. So if you find yourself either anxious or bored, then one of those ingredients is probably off. So, and it's not, a dire circumstance. You just have to figure out how to kind of adjust the thermostat so that you get it not too high or not too low in both of those categories. So I think that's the one thing that if I were to make a recommendation to somebody who's just saying, I think when people say that they're not enjoying their life, it's partially because, or in some cases, just because they're not finding ways to get into that flow state. So I would take a good hard look inside and decide whether or not those elements are missing from something that you're doing in your life. How about you?
Same thing. I think it starts with a little self-reflection. So if anything else, I would ask yourself, listeners, is when's the last time you've been in a flow state? So ask yourself, in the last 30 days, when's the last time I found myself in a flow state? And what are you doing? So get real curious. What are you doing? Where are those moments where your creativity is happening, you're fully present, you're immersed, and what you're doing in time is just flying by and you have no idea. So really reflecting and understanding what that is and when that has happened. And then again, start small. How do you create those moments on purpose?
Yeah.
And know that life is trying to keep you from having those moments. Like, I don't know why, but life has been created to keep us out of flow state. So you have to really build some processes and invest to create the time to get into flow.
Absolutely.
But man, I gotta tell you, Rebecca, I love being in flow. Like I love being in flow. I'm constantly chasing after moments. I'm gonna call them moments, moments of flow throughout the day.
Yeah.
How can you intentionally create that with your personal life, with your profession, anything that in your professional life, with your kids? Where are moments of flow with your family, friends?
Exactly. And be in that moment.
And be in the moment. I mentioned to you prior to hopping on the podcast, I'm going for a girls' weekend. Going to spend some time with my besties this weekend, and I have nothing else on my to-dos, like nothing, just so I can be there, be present, soak up those moments of flow and joy and laughter.
Exactly. That is what life is all about, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Peace. I think you mentioned it. It was, did you say peace and joy?
I think I might have said that, but that's what I meant.
Yeah. Peace and joy and presence.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the gift of the flow state for sure. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're feeling just for whatever reason, like squished, squeezed, a little joyless, not calm, not at your best, anxious, bored, somewhere in there is a call to find your flow state.
Yeah. Stop, pause, reflect, and get into more flow.
Absolutely.
All right, Rebecca, I wish cheers to you. Cheers to our listeners. And I wish everyone moments of flow, or we wish you all moments of flow throughout the next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of What in the Well. Be sure to review, rate, and subscribe to our podcast. And if you have a topic you'd like us to cover, share it in the comments. Stay well until we meet again.